God uses the rules to govern the universe. The rules of history are an important part of the rules. I tell Chinese history like bedtime stories and answer the following questions. Why is it that thousands of years of Chinese history is a great gift worth more than $1,000 trillion from God to the world? Why is China's thousands of years of Chinese history a vicious circle, and each dynasty will not last long? Most of the time in the history, China's GDP is the world's #1. Why isn't China the origin of the 4 industrial revolutions? What lessons can we learn from Chinese historical tragedies? Why is the Chinese Communist Party the enemy of the United States and world? Why does it say that if we do not learn the lessons of Chinese history, the United States will also go to tragedy? History is surprisingly similar. Why is it that there will be riots in China, and the world should start preparing for the effects of riots in China?
Studying history is not only interesting, but also very useful for individuals and nations. It helps us to know human beings and ourselves, and to avoid tragedies in life. By studying the history and summarizing the rules, use these rules to predict what will happen and what to do in some countries. For example, when you were a child, you watched some TV or movies that had a great impact on you. In your life, your thoughts and behaviors will be affected by those movies and TV shows you have seen in history, and even your speech has a few words from that. If I don't tell you thousands of years of Chinese history, the tragedy and bloodshed of 1 billion people will be futile. To understand what the Chinese think and do, one must know Chinese history at first. It's like checking credit records when you want to know someone. As a politician, you also must study Chinese history, because thousands of years of Chinese history have provided a sufficient length of sample for governing so that you can avoid tragedy and unnecessary cost of test.
In history, the land of East Asia has the names and history of many different countries, such as Qin, Han, Wei, Jin, Sui, Tang, 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing, Republic of China, Taiwan, the People's Republic of China, etc. I want to tell you about the history of the Han Dynasty at first, because the People's Republic of China is mainly composed of the Han population. The Han Dynasty and the Tang Dynasty have more influence on the thinking of the Chinese people.
On December 28, 256 BC, Liu Bang's son Liu Bang was born in East Asia. The emperor of the Han Dynasty was Liu Bang. According to the official history, Gao Zu Benji records, Liu Bang was the son of Red Dragon. The original text is as follows. Translation: Liu Bang is from Pei County. His father is Liu Taigong and his mother is Liu Ao. Liu Ao fell asleep on the bank of the river. In the dream, lightning and thundering, she met God. When Liu Taigong went to find his wife, he found a dragon on his wife. After that, Liu Taigong's wife became pregnant and gave birth to Liu Bang.
Translations: Liu Bang was drunk, and he ran a path through the swamp that night, sending a person to explore the road. The person who walked on the path came back and reported, "There is a big snake in the middle of the road, please go back." Liu Bang was drunk and said, "Men should not be afraid of anything." So he went forward and pulled out his sword. The snake was cut into 2 halves, and the road opened. After walking a few miles, he had a drunkenness and lay down to sleep. The men behind came to the place where the snake was cut and saw an old lady crying at night. A man asked why she was crying, and the old lady said, "Someone killed my son, so I cry." The man said, "Old lady, why was your son killed?" The old lady said, "My son is White Dragon's son, turned into a snake, was on the road. Now he was killed by Red Dragon's son, so I cried." People thought the old lady was lying and wanted to give her a lesson. The old lady disappeared suddenly. When the men arrived, Liu Bang was awake. They told Liu Bang what happened just now, and Liu Bang felt happy when he heard that.
The official history books of the Han Dynasty did not explain why the son of White Dragon was blocking the road of the son of Red Dragon. The Han Dynasty people were educated that the dragon is God. For 2,000 years of history, the peoples of China were educated, the dragon is God, and the emperor is the son of the dragon. All emperors depended on dragons to maintain their authority. The emperors wore robes embroidered with dragons, and dragon patterns were everywhere in the palace. In China history, there has never been a record that the big red dragon is Satan and the devil, and no one knows that the dragon is the devil and Satan. In East Asia, people have always worshipped the dragon. It would be a great honor to have a relationship with the dragon. If you ask a Chinese, do you think dragons are devil? He is likely to think you insulted their god, insulted his culture, and got angry. The view of the dragon is one of the fundamental contradictions of Eastern and Western religions.
In the Bible, the dragon is the devil, Satan, and the Bible revelation. Then another sign appeared in heaven, an enormous red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on his heads. He seized the dragon, that ancient serpent, who is the devil or Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. Speaking of which, I must emphasize that just quoting the Han Dynasty history books and the Bible may cause some readers to be dissatisfied, but remember this sentence: I can disagree with you, but I swear to defend your words that power.
In modern times, most Chinese people think that Chinese emperors with poor backgrounds need to brag about themselves, otherwise they cannot call on the people to follow him. They believe that Liu Bang wrote the story for rebellion. I used to think it was a story compiled by Liu Bang. But in recent years, more and more research and evidence indicate that ancient myths are likely to be true. The main evidence is that 2,000 years ago, different ancient civilizations with a distance of tens of thousands of kilometers have many similar records of their ancient myths. For example, there are myths about the flood, and for example, God used mud to make people. If myths were made up, the ancients who were tens of thousands of kilometers apart could not make up many myths with similar details. Make a bold hypothesis. Could it be that God and the devil had tests on each of the East and West to choose a piece of land for the Millennium Test to see who can create a better world? The devil chose a woman in East Asia and gave birth to Liu Bang on December 28, 256 BC. God chose a woman in West Asia and gave birth to Jesus in 0 BC.
In the Old Testament, only the law and punishment cannot make human society to be better. Therefore, in the New Testament, God led Jesus teaching human to have love. And the apostles spread the gospel to the world. Satan has different ways to govern humans. Satan believed in violence, killing all the people who were against him. In East Asia, the Satan helped his son to become emperor many times in China's history. If I tell you about the story of the dragon helped the first emperor of the Song dynasty, Zhao Kuangyin, about 1,000 years after Liu Bang's date of birth, you may be even more surprised. In the future, I will tell the history of the Song dynasty.
About the possibility of a test or gamble, Bible Job 8. Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." 9. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. 10. Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. 11. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. 12. The Lord said to Satan, "Very well, then, everything he has is in your hands, but on the man himself do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. This shows that Satan likes to question God and argue with God. When the debate is inconclusive, God and Satan will test. Suppose there was a debate between God and Satan. Satan's argument is that if he governs humans by his method, it is better than God's method. God and Satan then agreed to test in West Asia and East Asia. I use the word test instead of the word God and Satan's gamble because the Bible refers to the fact that gambling has never appeared in the dialogue between God and Satan, and every time Satan questions God, they may test.
Sometimes Satan even tried to seduce Jesus to destroy God's test. Bible Luke, Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned from the Jordan and was led by the Spirit in the desert, where for 40 days he was tempted by the devil. He ate nothing during those days, and at the end of them he was hungry. The devil said to him, "If you are the Son of God, tell this stone to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man does not live on bread alone." The devil led him up to a high place and showed him in an instant all the kingdoms of the world. And he said to him, I will give you all their authority and splendor, for it has been given to me, and I can give it to anyone I want to. So if you worship me, it will all be yours. Jesus answered, It is written, Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. The devil led him to Jerusalem and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. If you are the Son of God, he said, throw yourself down from here. For it is written, He will command His angels concerning you to guard you carefully. They will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Jesus answered, It says, Do not put the Lord your God to the test. When the devil had finished all this tempting, he left him until an opportune time.
If you combine the history of the Han Dynasty and then read the above text of Luke, you will realize that this experience and dialogue between the devil and Jesus are in time, logical, and the development of human society in the East and the West has always been between God and the devil testing. God told Job that all things in the world were created by God. For Job's education process, God spent a lot of precious time. With so many people on the earth, God couldn't teach everybody himself. Therefore, God gradually tended to educate mankind in a more ingenious and time-saving way. From the Bible, it can be seen that God has experienced human society from human creation, through prophet warnings, personal or angel punishment, promulgating the Ten Commandments, and sending his own sons. The process of educating people to have love and letting the apostles teach the world.
After more than 2,000 years of testing, it turns out that every country that believes in God as a developed and highly civilized country, such as the United States, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and France, etc. The demonic-controlled countries generally like red, such as the Han Dynasty, the German Nazis, the former Soviet Union, and so on.
If Liu Bang is really the son of a dragon, the devil will help Liu Bang rule East Asia with the devil's ideas and methods by supporting his son as emperor. After more than 2,000 years of testing, East Asia has experienced countless tragedies, massacres, wars, plagues, disasters, and a vicious cycle of the rise and fall of many dynasties. For more than 2,000 years, East-West controlled tests have proved that God is right, and the millennium test of God and the devil has been divided. I started with a considerable amount of space to introduce my conclusions by studying the history of the Han Dynasty and more than 20 dynasties, and then I continue to talk about the history of the Han Dynasty.
If Liu Bang is really the son of a dragon, the devil will help Liu Bang rule East Asia with the devil's ideas and methods by supporting his son as emperor. After more than 2,000 years of test, East Asia has experienced countless tragedies, massacres, wars, plagues, disasters, and a vicious cycle of the rise and fall of many dynasties. For more than 2,000 years, the millenary test in Eastern and Western countries has proven that God is right. I started with a considerable amount of space to introduce my conclusions by studying the history of the Han Dynasty and more than 20 dynasties, and then I continue to talk about the history of the Han Dynasty.